Welcome, everyone, to the Emergent Essence Dynamics webinar number 1, Coach Me If You Can, Dealing with Uncoachable Clients. It is February 20th, and today we have joining us Alina from Bucharest. We have Jim from Toronto, Sonal from Toronto, Valerie from Geneva. We have Irene from Venice. We have Sonia from the UK, and Cesar also from Romania, and Alexander from Berlin. And we have quite a mix of professions. We have coaches, we have healers, we have facilitators and consultants, and several of you are mixing the professions together. So, very rich group. Welcome, everyone. Please say hi. Hi, hi.
Hello.
Great.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey.
So, the theme here today is dealing with uncoachable clients. Now, that can also mean dealing with resistant clients or clients that test your limit, or people that are testing your limit, where your instinct is to say, okay, too much, they're a write-off, right? I'm not going to work with them. I'm not going to deal with them. And what we want to do is really look at, we have another one joining here. Great. Hi, Lulia. Welcome. Welcome. We've started. So the idea here is to actually not send people away so quickly. We need to look at really what is coachable, what is not coachable, and because one coach will say, this client's impossible, another client can work with them and say, no, actually they're pretty doable. It's fine. There's many variables that contribute to this. What I want to say most of all is it's good for us to look at this, because every time we say that person is not coachable or I can't work with this person, we're actually defining our own limits. Okay? Now, we can take that as a good thing to say, all right, I've hit my limit with this person. Now I have to look at what next can I learn? What next can I train myself on? What do I need to be aware of? So I want to turn this into something that's more positive for you rather than something where you're feeling crushed by limits and impossibilities. I want this to open the possibilities for you, all right? How is this sounding for you guys? Okay. So, who's laughing? Oh, Valerie? Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well.
Go ahead, say it. It's okay.
No, I mean, the only time I had a real psychopath coming to me, I said, no, sorry, I cannot help you. I can refer you to different psychologists and stuff, but and then I don't, yeah, I mean, of course, I totally agree with what you say, but
yes,
I guess
exactly.
that was
Now, where I'm coming from when I say this is, okay, there's an exception to this. When it's clear what the client demands is out of your training, okay, and you need to refer them out, okay, that's very clear. But when they fall within your training, when, you know, they fall within your expertise and it's still difficult, this is more what we're looking at, okay? So, yes, thank you for bringing that up. If someone falls outside your expertise, then okay. You can't professionally work with them, you have to outsource, okay? So that's clear from the beginning. What I would love to hear from each of you to spend a short time here is, I want to hear from either all of you or some of you, the various challenges and struggles you're running into. Let's say one thing where you say, okay, that's my limit. When I get a client like that, that's uncoachable or unworkable, all right? I want to capture those. I'll also then, I've made a list myself of things. So I want to see what your guys are running into and then also what I've noticed. And what I want to say here is that I will address as many of those as I can. And where I'm coming from, the EED training system, Emergent Essence Dynamics, it actually was designed to be quite all-encompassing, and there are ways to deal with all of these things. Because EED does do extra things other training systems don't address, so I want to find the ones where you're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that, right? And so I'm coming through the EED lens here to let you know. And then that may then, have you think, oh, there is somewhere where I could train myself more here or there. Or you're walking away saying, now I'm aware of a few things. I know I can do it. Now I know how to handle things. So either or, for me, I just want people, what I don't want is for people just to start writing people off and end up limiting themselves, right? Again, that's the main purpose is when you get an uncoachable client, it's an opportunity to teach you a new level, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But first we have to, excuse my language, bitch and complain, okay? So I'm giving you the opportunity to put some of the struggles and issues on the table. I'm just going to capture them, okay? Anyone?
Jump in.
Yes, Sonia.
I had a client who I coached for over a year, and she had been depressed. She was having medication for depression, but every time I sort of would say to try and find it, and I didn't want to sort of keep on focusing on the depression, but like, is this getting in the way? Because she would never do what she wanted, the homeworks.
Yes.
Sometimes she had to cancel at short notice because there was a social thing, and because she was so cut off from other people, it was like she really needed to be with other human beings as well, because she was desperately lonely and all the rest of it. So on the one hand, I could understand that, but also it was marginalizing the coaching and what I could give to her, because she was like slippery and coming out of my, it was very hard to grasp and keep her accountable, and to keep her also naturally creative, resourceful and whole, because she was often showing herself to be not. So I found that really hard, and part of me wanted to say, let's just end this, but and part of my stuff was I needed the clients, so I was really trying to, and it was hard work. And anyway, they immigrated.
Perfect. Anyone else? Just raise your hand if you have something similar like that, or if you've experienced anything where somebody, they're blocked or they're disconnected, or, they're flaky, they cancel here or there for various reasons. Just, raise a hand and say, yes, okay. Great, because that can be a common one. And then where do you draw the line? Are they whole? Are they not whole? Do I continue or not? That's a very important question. Okay, we will look at that. Let's have another issue. Something else? I don't want to double up on things. So if you have a similar story, okay, great. That's why I'm asking you to show your hand. Good. So now, do you have something?
Yeah, so I would say, so I'm coming across right now a lot of people who are so riddled with saboteurs that they can't even when you point it out to them, even when we work with the saboteur assessment from Positive Intelligence, they're just so strong that they just can't move forward and do anything. Okay, now I want to ask, okay, by the way, if anyone has not taken Coaches Training Institute, CTI, limited beliefs, negative thinking, all of that, it's called the saboteur. EED calls it the pathetic self, also polarities. We have different names for it, but everyone, or the monkey chatter, or the gremlin, there's lots of names, all right? The thing, there's strong saboteurs. Now what I want to add is, do they seem addicted to the saboteurs? Do they seem just so paralyzed by them, or so entrenched they can't wake up from them? Entrenched. Okay. And I think there is a bit of the addiction to the saboteurs as well.
Yeah. Okay. If not with a particular client, there are other clients that actually, they may not admit it, but they're quite addicted to it too. Right? Yeah. Anyone else experiencing that? Client really entrenched in their disempowering beliefs, chatter, limited thinking. Okay, good. That's a very good one. Strong saboteurs. Who else? Yeah. Alexander, you got something. Okay.
Yeah, what drives me crazy is going in circles. It's like you're having a 15th session with that client and he or she is still on the same subject, and it's like, fuck For Christ's sake, we've talked about it. You know, you've been there. We found your brilliant self. You found a solution to this. You felt strong. Do we have to talk about that now? You know, I remember it. Don't you remember?
So there's no. It's almost like you're always back to square one.
Yeah.
You make progress, and then we're back to square one. Back to square one. Yeah, I'm writing that one down here too. Okay, good. Anyone else? It's like, I thought we just did the good work. I thought we moved forward. Now we're back to the same thing. Okay. Okay, who else? Anyone else here?
People who resist and do not listen.
Okay.
And then they say they are listening. They say they take into consideration, but they say how they are going to apply, but when it is to apply, they fall it again in the same pattern.
Now, is it that they take it and then throw it away and say, give me something else? It's like it's never good enough?
It's almost thinking it's so easy to do it. It's not for them. Yeah, it's so easy. It's not for me. I'm above it.
Ah, okay. I'm above that. Give me something more complicated.
Exactly.
Challenging.
But then the basic is not there to
Okay.
have the background.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, this can have variations. And what I'm going to call it is, no, not that. Give me something else.
Okay.
Give me something else. No, not that. So they could be, that's too complicated. Give me something simpler. Oh, well, now that's too simple. Give me something more complicated. Okay. That's quite a typical thing. Good. Anyone experiencing anything like that? Like it's just never good enough, not the right thing. Okay, good. Anyone else? Yeah.
Well, Troy, this is Cesar. What I've experienced in executive coaching in sales, that when it's happening something like that, I realized immediately that it's strongly related with me, because when I was trying to put on a show, you know, and to make a point or to highlight something, it was like a boomerang, you know, effect. The client was signaling me that is not his way, and it was like you know, like a theater, mise en place. Like you know, I have to put on a role, to put on a show, and you're not challenging enough to help me go deeper. Yeah, and I think this is a strong signal for a coach to realize on a systemic level what's happening between you and him, and you're not carrying away anything. I mean, it's not your you know, duty if he doesn't want to go deeper.
Yeah. Okay. So a refusal to go deeper, they can end up saying, "Hey, no, you're not doing it the right way. This is not things." Okay. Great. So they're projecting. They'll put it on you.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and I'm usually taking this and.
Yeah, well, it's yeah. We can talk about that a little bit more. You'll definitely want to take it in. I mean, they're making you feel incompetent.
Yeah, right? and this is the way when I dance in the moment with him.
Yes. Okay. Good.
One more pattern: refusal to step out of drama.
Oh, so you're saying the client is very dramatic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good one too. Yeah. I'm adding a little bit to my list here. Okay. Good. Definitely. Okay. Client is dramatic. Great. I've compiled a list here as well. So of some other points. So here's one now, especially if you're a corporate coach. The client is sent to you. They're forced to do the session. Okay? And there's like, I didn't ask for this, right? Coach me. Right? Okay, so client is forced or sent. I'm seeing some people nodding. All right. The client is very, very, very introverted. Practically unresponsive. You can barely get reaction out of them, okay? They're very introverted. Or they're unemotional or unresponsive, and that's consistent, okay? Here's another one that I get a lot is the client says, I don't know. And they say it a lot, almost all the time. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. What do you feel? I don't know. What do you want? I don't know. What are you going to do? I don't know. Right? You get that? Okay, lots of nods there. Here's another one where the client could be very, constantly distracted, or, they're not focused, right? Okay. The other one is maybe the client is not giving you the answers you expect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's your value? What do you mean values? I don't have value. It's like, oh, what do I do with that? Okay. Okay. The client dismisses your tools, your methods, or your methodology, or your process. Like, oh, that's bullshit. Feelings? Bullshit. What do you mean? Life purpose. What are you talking about? I got a vision. I don't need to work on vision with you. What are you talking about? Values. Bullshit. I want something else. Right? Okay. Here's another one. The client is performing for you. You can't seem to get an authentic moment. They're giving you what they think you want to hear. All right? And it's hard to nail them down. Anyone experiencing that? They're in a performance.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the right answer?
Yes. What's the right answer? Or the other one is they're underperforming and you wish they would be more expressive, bigger, right? Again, it's that unresponsive client. Here's another one. The client is easily offended. Easily.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You ask them a question and like, whoa, oh, that's inappropriate. Okay? Here's another one. The client gets aggressive. Okay? Right? So angry they're aggressive at you. How dare you? Oh, I've never had a coach ask me that kind of a thing before. You're on
the right track. You're on the right track if he reacts like that.
Yeah, exactly. The client is not consistent. We discussed that. They don't hold themselves accountable. Or here's another one. The client has no desire. I don't desire anything. I have everything I want. Everything's great. It's okay. What do you want to work on? Well, everything is good. Right? Here's one common one. The client is asking you for advice, answers. They want you to fix. They want the solutions. That's very, very, very common. I know you're my coach, but, just tell me what you think. Just, am I crazy? Would this be right or should I do? Right. Here's another one. The client is not willing to invest. This means they're not willing to put in, their own energy and the work into the session. It could even be, yeah, I want the coaching, but I'm not willing to put the money out for it. You could have them as a client, but they're not willing to sign up, okay? That's partly it too. The client does not take action. We've got that. The client does not do their homework. We've got that. Do any of you give pre-coaching forms, like a little questionnaire before the session? What do you want to work on, this or that?
Yeah, but they never fill it out.
No, exactly. So they never fill out that form. Okay. Some people consider that like, if they don't fill out the form, I can't coach them. So they're not willing to do their inner work. They're not willing to be honest with themselves. They're not willing to, increase their awareness. Okay. They're waiting for you to do that. They're not willing to look. That's another one. How about this? The client gets very excited and then they deflate. They get excited and then they deflate. Oh, that would be so great. Oh, everything is possible. Okay, so what are you going to do? Right? And it's just over and over. Okay? So those are some other ones, right? And we've got these, lost, distracted. They're indifferent or apathetic. Whatever. I don't care. Whatever. Right? Okay. So you guys are laughing. Oh, and the last one is the client's always in their head. Always in their head. Always in their head. Head, head, head. Head, head, head. Head, head, head. Can't stand it. Okay. So you guys getting a good picture of this? Okay. What for you is one or two of the most frustrating, and then we're going to address these. I can't really address them all in the 90 minutes allotted, but what ones are the most frustrating?
Step out of drama.
Yeah.
Being in the head.
Being in the head.
Always in the head.
Okay.
Getting excited about everything and visioning and everything, and then what do you want to do? I don't know.
Okay. So we've got the drama, we've got the head, we've got deflated, we've got I don't know. Okay.
Not willing to do their inner work.
Okay. Anything else?
Not invested. All those I don't knows, it's okay, whatever. Many forms of not invested enough.
Okay. Great.
When they ask for advice instead of work.
Yeah. Okay, good. Those are pretty good. Those are like the big ones, the main ones. And all the other ones are kind of variations of this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to tell you guys. All of this stuff boils down to three things. Like what I did was I said, okay, what are all these things? And there's basically three categories of how you can remedy this, all right? Three categories are, one, and this is now what I'm going to say is this is what it requires of you in order to address this, okay? Because here's what I want to say. No matter how the client behaves, assume it's natural behavior. They didn't pay you to give you trouble, all right? Even if they're giving you trouble and they want to give you trouble, it's still coming from an unconscious place of they're struggling, they're fearful, they're hitting something, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So all of these are expressions of resistance. Now, each coach has different levels of tolerance for that resistance, and they have different levels of skill sets to deal with the resistance, okay? So this has to do a lot with, number one, your range. That means your range of training and tools plus your own personal range of tolerance. Okay, what can you be with? What can you accept? And then what starts upsetting you and having you close down and start taking things personally, or where you start to worry, am I competent? Am I good enough? I hate you, blah, 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 okay? Second thing is the level of investment of the client, and it is up to the coach to consciously build that investment with the client, okay? So I will give you some tips on how do you build the investment when it's low. How do you rebuild the investment when they're losing steam, okay? This is 3 levels of investment. Investment in the coaching relationship or the relationship, the work, okay? This is investment in themselves. And no, I think I collapsed too. It's investment in the relationship, it's investment in the work, and investment in themselves, okay? No, sorry, got it wrong. No. Investment in the work and the relationship, that's all the same, sorry. Investment in themselves, and then it's investment in their actions. Okay, there's a way to build investment in how they take action, because otherwise it's too easy to just swim around in a nice conversation, right? And then it just is philosophy. Right, I'm not even looking at what I wrote here. So it's like, okay. It's an action, relationship, and your process, okay? The third main thing, and this is actually the most wide-reaching. You have a relationship with the client, and they behave in a certain way with you. Therefore, they are having a dynamic with you, and you are having a dynamic with them. Many of the resistance and uncoachability comes from that dynamic in itself. It's like the client is playing a game with you. Whether they know it or not, they are playing a game. We call this the coach-client dynamic, and it is a very, actually, it's a whole separate skill in itself for you to learn how do dynamics work, how to handle the dynamic, how to shift it. The philosophy here is how the client shows up in their dynamic with you, they are also showing up that way in other areas of their life. So, in fact, they're living out their issues and patterns right in front of you in the way they behave with you. So if they're constantly answering, I don't know, if they're low in investment, if they're aggressive or easily offended, they're bringing that everywhere in their life, not just with you. Or they are performing for you, bringing in a kind of fake dynamic, a well-behaved dynamic or well-constructed dynamic, and then they are having different dynamics elsewhere in life. And if you can catch that inauthenticity in the way they're constructing the dynamic, you can break it. You'll actually get more truth from the client, okay? So that's the other thing with the dynamic. So what happens in a dynamic is they're playing a game, they're putting you in a role, and they have to have the matching role. But this becomes a source for their life issues. It's a source of patterns. It's a way of showing the patterns. Okay. So these issues have to do with either building investment, the coach-client dynamic, or your own range. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, when we talk about, where is that? Drama and resistance. Well, that's going to come a lot from the coach-client dynamic and somewhat from your range, either your range to handle it or work with it, okay? Neutralize it. That means you need know-how and skills, and you also have to have more of a wider tolerance to be able to accept that drama and resistance. You can't neutralize it until you accept it, okay? For the client being in the head, that has a lot more to do with the coach's range in themselves. Their range of skills and ability. How do you work with a head-oriented person while still finding ways to get them into their body and aware of their emotions? That does take extra training and skill and acceptance from the coach's part. It only has a little bit to do with the coach-client dynamic. Okay. When the client is constantly inspired and then deflated, inspired and deflated, that has to do with either building investment properly with the client, which you may need to learn skills on that, and it has a lot to do with the coach-client dynamic. Mm-hmm. It's a pattern they're living out. I don't know is a big one. Okay, there's many reasons for the I don't know. But what I will say is with this I don't know, it has a lot to do with the coach-client dynamic, and then it has somewhat to do with the coach's range, either the range of skill or the range of tolerance. Sometimes I find the coach actually is causing the client to say I don't know because the coach is not matching the client's process. But then there are other times where the I don't know is just clear resistance, it's ambiguity, it's veiled resistance, okay? Being not willing or not invested, that has everything to do with how to build investment in the client. A little bit to do with resistance. And then asking the coach to give advice or be an expert, that has everything to do with the coach-client dynamic. Okay. So, what I want to focus on here is the coach-client dynamic, because that covers quite a few of these. And I want to start with this. They want you to give advice, or they want you to be an expert, okay? This will help you a lot, because then it helps you to redesign your relationship with them. It helps you to then build investment. It also gives you more awareness and range as a coach. And in the end, you actually may be okay to be cast in a role where they want you to give advice. Okay? I know the coaching profession says don't do it. Well, you've got some options on how to deal with that. Okay? You either do it or you don't, or you do a little bit. Or there's a way to do it where you satisfy their game and then you turn that game on. Okay, so let me talk to you about what I'm calling, by the way, I'm going to have a much more detailed webinar on this in April called The Games the Clients Play, okay, because it is all about this dynamic. Ideally, well, I want to hear from you. What is the ideal role of a coach? What are we doing ideally? You have to know your function as a coach. I just want to hear a few ideas from you. If you need to say what you don't do, that's fine. But we need to find out what is a pure coach. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, when I'm coaching someone in a pure coaching session, I'm trying to bring them awareness to what it is that they're bringing their attention to. Like, so what am I focused on? What is the energy that I'm bringing to that? How is that aligned with my strengths, my values, what's important to me, so that then they can make an empowered choice. Is this the perspective that I want to take, or do I want a different one? How do I want to engage this situation? Who do I want to be here?
And what's it all for?
It's all for so that when they're taking the action to resolve the situation, they're using the best of themselves, and they actually feel good about the action they're doing, regardless of what outcome happens. They know they were fully invested in the action, in the transformation, becoming who they authentically want to be, rather than being defined by the situation, circumstances.
Okay, great. So you are getting them into a place where they have more sovereignty, more autonomy, more awareness, so they can make more choices.
Yeah.
Okay, from their own sovereignty or autonomy. Okay, anything else to add from what you're really doing? Yeah, Cesar.
Yeah, I see myself like a resonance box, you know, like from the guitar, like amplifying whatever comes from the client, and not trying to transform him, but trying to be there, accepting and riding along whatever he chooses to make like a path. I don't go further. I don't go behind. Just accompany whatever he wants. It's not my job to transform him.
All right. Does anyone disagree with that, where they say, my job as a coach, he's saying your job is not to transform them?
Yeah.
Does anyone have a disagreement or a variation or a problem with that?
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
and someone else, yeah.
I mean, we're evoking transformation. It's not our job to transform them, right? They do the transformation through the work that they do with us.
Okay. Good.
Is that kind of where?
Yeah, and then I'd ask you to say, what does evoke actually mean?
Spark, trigger.
Spark or trigger a transformation. Okay. Okay. Because here is where coaches get into hot water. This is where they get into trouble. Their relationship with transformation. Now, when coaching began, they began in reaction to consultants and therapists. They said, we don't fix people as if they're broken, and we don't advise people because we want them to find the solutions themselves, okay? And then, so then what are coaches doing? So then, yes, a few years ago, CTI changed their language and they said, we're evoking transformation. But that has to be thought about very, very carefully. Because evoke can imply that you're creating a transformation, and you have, be very careful that you're not creating the transformation for them. or even triggering the transformation. Because as soon as you start doing that, you're moving away from the coach's pure role, which is non-interference. That's ideally what the ICF was going for when they said, we don't advise, we don't fix. It's non-interference, okay? But that created problems because non-interference does not mean you're not invisible. Okay, some people took non-interference to the extreme and said, well, I'm not here, I'll only ask questions, and that would frustrate the client and the coach because it loses direction. If I'm too directive, I might start fixing, advising, and changing and transforming for the client. So, what we're doing with EED is we're really carefully defining what exactly are you doing. So what we've come up with is you are facilitating a process of more self-awareness and sovereignty, which naturally creates a transformation itself. You are facilitating the client accessing resilience, and from resilience, they create their own transformation. Okay, so it's not up to you to even trigger the transformation. Okay, now you're not imposing your will. Okay? As soon as you start imposing your will, you are now interfering. But you need to activate the client. Okay, there needs to be action-reaction in order for the client to move their awareness around. So that means you do have to have presence. So what we're teaching here, it's like you poke, they respond. You poke, they respond. You're not poking with a preconceived result. It's like you've got a panel of blank buttons. You want to push the buttons and see what the responses are. The more responses you get, the more awareness they can build. Does this make sense? You're
Sounds
not.
like,
Yeah,
sounds
go ahead.
like sounds like acupuncture.
Well, yeah, yeah. Now, you may have an idea of how these buttons function, but you won't know until you push them. So it's a very, very delicate balance between being a pure facilitator that activates the energy and awareness of the client, as well as practicing non-interference, okay? That's a sweet spot. Does that make sense to you guys now? Okay? That naturally will evoke the transformation, okay? But it's not you or the client who's responsible for creating the transformation. If that happens, you're moving into a polarity. Now, polarity is like a duality. This extreme of if there's the bad guy, you've got the good guy, okay? If you're creating the transformation, they are either going to receive or refuse the transformation. Right? That creates frustration. If you give advice, they have to receive it or refuse it. Does that make sense? So there's three roles that appear when we move off that facilitation, which is one, we either become ourselves or they ask us to be a guru or an expert. This is where we start teaching, mentoring, imparting wisdom, all right? We're giving our expertise, and then they just download it. Oh, great coach, you're so wise and smart. I love all the insights you give me during each session. They're now making you into their guru, okay? What that does is it creates status. Now that you have high status, they have low status, so guess what? They have less resilience, they have less access to resources. They'd rather have you do the work for them, okay? The second role is being the rescuer or the savior. Oh my God, coach, I'm drowning. It's so hard and difficult and life is so overwhelming and I'm so sad or I'm so paralyzed. Please take me out, save me, pull me out of the water. I'm drowning, okay? They take low status, meaning I have no ability, okay? I have no strength. No resources. You have the strength. Pull me out of my bad situation, okay? So either you create the role or they do. It can happen both ways, okay? The third role is the role of the fixer, helper, or meddler. This is the problem solver, all right? Let me figure this out with you or for you. Or one more question about the situation, right? You're sticking your nose in it to get more details so you can help fix or solve, okay? Right? So, or they may be providing you with more and more information just in case you need more information so you can help solve it and fix it, okay? So like I said, this goes both ways. So to sum it up, you've got the guru, you've got the rescuer, and you've got the fixer helper. How are you guys doing with this information?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so now as far as your own range goes, you need to ask yourself, when do I need to rescue and save my clients? Okay? What is it that they do that makes me want to rescue or save them? Okay, think of the times when you want to reach in and pull them out of the water, okay? Now, your clients will actually unconsciously know that. If you keep rescuing and saving me, I'm going to say, oh no. Oh God, this is so hard, I don't know. What are you feeling when I do that? Can you feel the suck? It's like I'm sucking you in. Okay. They unconsciously feel that stuff out. Okay. You may then start to play with that. Okay. Or same with the I don't know. If you are too quick to advise them, be the guru, they're going to say more often, I don't know. You guys get it? If you are too quick to fix it for them, micromanage their homework. What are you going to do? Oh, how are you going to do that? Oh, but what about this and that? Why don't you do this and that? It makes it easier then for them to say, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it. You guys getting this? How the I don't know is going to suck you into any of those three roles. Okay? You got to counteract it. Yeah, go ahead, Jim. Question or comment?
Quick question for you. So I've had two different clients that were trying to draw me into these situations recently.
Yes.
One has been repeatedly trying to draw me into being the helper savior.
Yep.
And I called them out on it last time. I'm like, trying it. And she struggled, but we ended up resolving that okay. I had another client who was like, when I'm like, I am not your problem solver. Like,
yes.
All you're doing is just telling me story. She got really upset with me, and we tried to work through that. But basically, she got quite aggressive at me for. So what I'm curious.
I'm paying you good goddamn money. You're gonna listen to my stories, buddy.
What I'm curious about is, so we're recognizing these things.
Yes.
We're going to call them out. We're going to provoke our clients.
Yes.
How do we then play with?
Yes.
What arises for us?
I'm going to give you a very simple EED tip, which is working with action reaction. So when you call them out, what you're doing is you're just naming the essence of the moment. That's what we call it. You're just articulating what's happening. You're naming the moment. Immediately work with their response. You do not work with their verbal response. Like, how dare you say this about me? I'm not asking you to rescue me. I'm strong, right? You work with the energy. Wow, there is like a certainty in your voice. There's passion, there's anger. What are you now connected with? What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm so angry at you. Yes. Let's look at the anger, because that's your power, right? That woke you up. Now you're no longer asking to be saved, because now they've absorbed the role when you call them out on that. One technique is neutralize it, okay? If we want to talk rescue or saver, and by the way, in April, I'm going to talk way more detail on this, but just for now, you have a choice. You can either rescue or you let them drown. You need to ask yourself, how am I to be okay with letting them drown? Can I turn my back? Valerie's saying she's got to go. So Valerie, nice to have you, and enjoy. You'll get the recording. Enjoy the recording for the rest of
Thank
this.
you very much. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And what's interesting there, Troy, is you're creating that polarity there. Do I let them drown? But the CTI model, they're naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. It's like they are human beings. It's not my responsibility to make that choice.
Yeah, they're making you feel responsible for it.
But I don't have to accept it. They're throwing it at me, but I don't have to receive it.
Okay. Guess what's happening now, Jim? I'm going to come at you harder.
Awesome.
Why?
Yeah.
Because you're actually not accepting me drowning. What, do you get what I'm saying, or do you want me to explain a little more?
So what I'm receiving here is, in the client situation, it's as if so are you playing a role, or are you
No. This dynamic just naturally showed up. I'm capturing. Okay. No, what I'm saying is you've got a common response, which is, hey, you know what you did with your hands. The client is naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. They can drown. However, what you're doing is you're throwing up your hands. You're taking an indifferent position, which actually creates resistance. It's going to make them scream louder because they think you don't care. Okay, it's like the whatever, drown, I don't care. Right? Underneath you're sending that message, which is going to make them scream louder. And they're going to say, no, really, Jim, I'm drowning. No, really, I'm suffering. I'm drowning. There's a shark eating my leg. I'm drowning. Right? They're going to throw as much drama in there as possible until you have compassion for them.
Okay, yes.
And you may have to play into their game a little bit, like, oh my God, you are drowning. Right? Now, here's the limit. What they want in the end is that you jump in the water. Don't ever jump in the water. Why? Do you know why?
We're denying their sovereignty.
Or you drown with them.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you're denying their sovereignty, but they're going to kill you. Right?
They're going to climb on your back to try and get out.
Get out. That's our natural instinct. Okay? And because they're drowning, they feel that status. The first human instinct is, you got to get down on the level with me. Right? So don't jump in. It was like what was said earlier. You could throw them this way and they say, no, it's too complicated. Throw them this. No, it's too simple. It's like it's never good enough. That's another example of drowning. Okay? No matter what you throw, it's not good enough. What they're asking is, you do the work for me. While I sit back and do nothing. And then they're in a very easy position because they can then say, not satisfied. You're a shit coach. Right? That just increases client complaint. It gives them the ability to complain. So what you need to do then is make them aware that they're drowning. You do realize you're drowning in your shit, right? How is that feeling for you? That's better than saying, well, you're resourceful. That's like, how would you feel, Jim, if you're on the operating table, you're going through a very scary surgery, the doctor cuts you open and says, well, wow, there's lots of guts on the table. You're obviously in a mess. Well, you're resourceful. Pull yourself up.
That was, yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally get what you're saying. Sorry, I think there was a bit of a misinterpretation of me saying that they're naturally creative, resourceful, and whole versus like, fuck you, client, you can figure it out. Yeah.
No, but it's also partly why, because I've supervised like CTI coaches for years, and there develops this flippancy around, well, you're creative and resourceful. It's a little dismissive, patronizing, or flippant. And when a client truly is, like when they're drowning, they believe they are drowning. And they're going to suck you into it. You've got to acknowledge or recognize, yeah, that's a scary, painful experience for them, but I'm not going to get pulled in the water either. So first, you recognize it. You accept it, but then you've got to get them to accept that they are drowning. Because what they're trying to do is deny it. I'm drowning, but no, it's not really. I mean, I can get help. No, there is no help available. You are drowning. Right? As soon as they can move into a bit of acceptance on that, they start getting more resilient. The other thing is to say, well, you're drowning, and how are you still alive? How are you still alive? So yeah, life's horrible. This is a shitty situation. How are you still surviving it? Okay? That also neutralizes it. It's like you said, Jim, you're giving them back their sovereignty. How are you guys doing with this information?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It doesn't, okay, yeah, so now you have to go. Okay, great. Pleasure, and you'll get the latter half, you get to listen to what we further discuss in the recording.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so whether it's they want you to be the expert, the savior, or the fixer, it's the same. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You recognize what's going on, you articulate that to them, get their response. Okay? And if they're going to fight you back on it, well, now you have resilience. Okay? If they're going to totally give up and say, oh, yeah, you're right, they're just going deeper in the role, then you say, well, how is that to just swallow what I just told you so quickly? How does that feel for you? You swallow everything you hear? Do you understand? So again, you're calling a spade a spade. Again, you want their reaction. Usually they're going to swing back. Okay? I had a client today, and it was actually our first official session. The client was being ambivalent, ambiguous, a bit indifferent. They were one of the I don't knows and I don't feel very much. Okay? And I said, well, you know, the client knows what they want to work on. And I said, what do you want by the end of this session? We have an hour. What is it you want to be walking away with? Well, I don't know. And I said, then you're going to walk away with nothing. What? Well, that's exactly what you're telling me. I said, we're here. You need, so this is a bit of building investment. I'm getting them to be intentional. They have to come with an intention. They need to be specific. Otherwise, they defer to you and say, well, tell me what we're going to work on and how we're going to do it. Okay, so I need their participation. And I'm moving away from those roles into this building investment part, okay? You want the client to be intentional. So I said, well, maybe I want more clarity on the issue. I said, okay, so do you want the clarity or not? Well, I don't know, maybe. Then you're not getting the clarity. You will walk away with no clarity in this session. How does that feel when I say that? Well, that sounds mean. I said, well, then do you want the clarity or not? Well, you're putting pressure on me. Well, what does it feel to be under pressure? How is that an issue for you? Right? Now I'm using the dynamic. Did you get it? Anyways, the client said, well, I want some clarity. I want this. I want that. I said, great. Because maybe then I can be like this. I said, oh, excellent. All I want you to do is now shift your language. Just not say, maybe I can be. I want you to simply say, I am. And feel what that feels like. What's the difference? Might feel weird, but what does that like? It was a test. We do this in EED. We test a lot. Meaning, test the integrity of the client. Do they stand behind their word? And this client wouldn't do it. Did it a little bit and said, well, it feels fake. It feels like that. I said, well, jump ahead. 1 hour. What's the result you want? I want you to go to the future. You're in your time machine. It is now an hour later. What are you walking away with? Still wouldn't go. I said, okay, if you don't want to try it, that's fine. Now, what is it like to fight me on this? I'm not really fighting. I said, well, then you would have done it by now. Well, now you're putting pressure. Again, what's it like to have the pressure? I said, by the way, what's it like to interact with me like this? Well, it doesn't feel good. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. So I'm constantly calling what's happening in the moment, but I'm not letting them cast me in one of those roles. Now, that's getting too boring. Then I go let myself get cast in one of the roles. Okay, so I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do. You need to do this. You need to do this and this. And by the way, I've got all the strength. You don't, because I need to pull you out of the water now. Now, here's how. Just let me do it. Trust the process. I'm pulling you out because you're drowning. And eventually they're going to say, oh, but wait a minute. I feel like you're forcing your will upon me. That's not what I asked for. I said, well, then what do you want? I don't know. Make a decision. By the end, I mean, I made progress with this client, but at the end, I said, now what are you walking away with? And the client said, well, it was kind of superficial. And I said, why? Well, it was just like, I thought we'd go deeper into areas. And I said, all right, we will. You need to be able to answer more decisively on everything. Okay, there's so many I don't knows, but there were moments, and I pointed each one of them out, when you had a lot of clarity. You were very lucid. It's newer for you. So this is where you be transparent, you train, and you have patience. I said, we're only going to go as deep as you're willing to go. Okay? Now, you have a slower rhythm. It takes you a while to name what you're feeling, name what you want, name what you're thinking. That is okay. So I have to come from acceptance, right? I'm accepting what they're doing. Yet I'm being demanding and persistent as well. So here's the key. You're moving between being patient and compassionate to being demanding and persistent. You have to have a balance between these two. Let them say, I don't know, and then refocus them so they do know. Let them say, I don't know, and then say, I'm not accepting that answer. Make a choice. See how they respond. So you're moving back and forth. Does this make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
So I said, look, this was our first session. It's a good first session. You do have expectations. It's going to demand something from you to be able to get there. I cannot do all the work for you. Are we clear on that? Yes, we're clear. I said, and what are you now walking away with? Well, I'm walking away with a little bit of that, little bit of that. I said, great. Let that now be 100%. Because the client is also judging. Even if you get a little bit, they're saying, well, I wanted it to be this big. I wanted to feel this angle when I only just felt annoyed. I said, annoyed is enough. Now that you're aware, like this client said, I'm an empty shell. I don't feel. I said, oh, okay. You've been feeling a lot during the session, yes? Yeah, but I mean, you should have a bigger emotional range. I said, well, you fought me. You were annoyed. You got angry. We got into a place where you felt great. Yeah, well, it's not enough. You see, then they put it on my head. You guys see that, where they're shifting?
Yeah.
You've got to neutralize the judgment. Well, 1% with full focus becomes 100%. You want to reproduce the feeling, access it again. If it feels like it's this much, just go with that, accept it, and enjoy it. That makes sense, you guys. Most of the time when the client is trying to undermine your ability, it's a defense for them not wanting to be accountable to themselves. If you can hear it that way and hear it as a game, you're much further ahead. I talked a lot there. I just want to know how you're doing with this information. What's becoming clear? What do you want more examples of, or what else you want to look at here?
You know, Troy, I am very interested about what's in your universe, head, heart, I don't know, presence, when you have to make some judgments, you know, about some labeling systems around what's happening between you and the client. Yeah. How do you cope with that? I don't know, hunger of putting labels, because I'm struggling with that. You know, when I label the client, everything's fucked up from that moment for me.
Label it in the moment. I don't want to use the word label. Name what's happening in the moment. let that go and get the response. Okay, so you've got action, reaction. You're more interested in the reaction. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If I say you're weak and indecisive, I let that go. I'm saying it to see how you react to it. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then immediately I articulate your reaction. It's like, wow, you just woke up, you straightened your spine, and you got angry with me.
Uh-huh.
Right? That's now not weak and indecisive. Do you understand? They've shifted. So I want to focus on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the way EED works. In every single moment, there's an action and a response. And we're working with, like you said, head, heart, body, awareness and experience, back and forth, balancing between integrating the awareness with the experience. If they're angry, I want them to know also what they're aware of while they're angry. What are the thoughts? What are they believing now? And how do they feel? What are the sensations going on?
Mm-hmm.
In order, I can't just say, hey, client, get angry. What do you mean, get angry? You have to give them something to get angry about, okay? Emotions are about action.
Mm-hmm.
Action. Emotions are reactions. Actions and reactions. So you can't say feel angry, get angry. No. Who's somebody that annoys you? Oh, my brother. When he, starts laying into me, criticizing my job and everything. Say, okay, I want you to see his face, hear his voice, and watch him wagging his finger in your face, saying, you're not good enough. You and your shit job. Now they're going to get angry. You give them something to react against. You'll get plenty of anger. That's part of building investment in the topic. If you've got a non-emotional client, or they're very protective or non-feeling, make the topic much more specific. Make it personal, meaning it really personally affects them, and then up close, it's like rub it in their face. They can't help but react. So that's how you build investment in the topic, is make it up close, personal, and very specific. If they start being ambiguous or generic, they don't need to feel, because they've got lots of distance from it. Do you guys understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another easy fix. Was there anyone else had questions? I know I can't cover everything in the hour and a half. But I want to know what else, because like say we got 5-10 more minutes, and then I want to start closing things down.
Troy, I would love if you cover in a few words this going in circles case. Yeah.
Okay. The going in circles, it has a lot to do with, partly with building investment, partly with the coach-client dynamic. Okay. Let's look at if it's building investment. This might be where you've got a session, they say, here's my topic, we explore it, it looks like they're doing their emotional work, they come out with an insight, they're feeling great, and then what will you do? They're more resonant. And then they go out and they kind of lose steam, or they don't do it, or they just say, fuck it off. And then they come back and they say, I gotta work on this again. Actually, I'm seeing 3 things about that. So 1 is coach-client dynamic, 2 is building investment, and 3 is it's kind of a game they're playing. So, they're casting you in a role of, so there's a dynamic they're playing with themselves. They may have a pattern of never following through. It might be a thing of commitment. It might be a thing of fear or whatever, right? Or procrastination or self-sabotage. That's 1. But they may be playing a game with you where they're using you to feel better about themselves. I always feel so good when I talk with my coach. Oh, actually, when I talk to my coach, I feel like I don't have so many problems anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when I hang up, I got to go face the real world again. So actually, the game they're playing with you is they're putting their head under their pillow while they talk with you. Do you know, like you get up in the morning and it's like, I don't want to face the world. It's so cozy in my bed. That's what they're using your session for. That's why it becomes addictive to work on the same topic again and again. Does it make sense?
That's it.
It's almost like, oh, wow, he can help me again. Did you get my gesture? So it's a little bit of, okay, they're playing with themselves, all right?
Yeah, the client that I have in mind, he says exactly those things. It's like, oh my God, every time I see you, it becomes so easy for me. It's so clear. And then nothing happens.
So what's needed there in order to break the cycle quite easily is go into the building investment. They've got to build investment in their actions. You've got to start nailing them down to, will you do this? Will you not do it? Okay. And they might feel bad about saying, I won't do it. They may not have the courage to say that. You've got to make them aware that it's okay, that you want them making a choice and following through. That's more important, okay? If they're making the choice, then they've got to build investment in the action. So if they say, yes, I'm going to make 10 phone calls this week. Well, you said that last week. You didn't do it. What's different this time? Right? So they cannot make action out of obligation. It's got to have meaning. So it's not the action itself, but when you accomplish that action, what does that mean for you? What new strength have you taken on? What's the proof that you've got this new strength by doing that action, right? For example, building investment where it has more meaning, it reinforces their strength, it reinforces their well-being, okay? And if you realize, once you have that conversation, they say, well, yeah, this is about my confidence. This is about me believing in myself. Well, how does it feel when you are believing? I stand taller. I breathe deeper. And my voice drops. I speak like this. I said, great. So your action every day then is to get into that posture every morning before you do anything. It doesn't matter about the 10 phone calls. It's about this posture. Engage with people. Go out and socialize. Go out and talk to anybody from this posture, this voice. That will do them much more a world of good. They know what it's for. Then they can go make those 10 phone calls. But it's more, what's the meaning behind the action? Does that make sense, Alexander?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Thank you.
So spend more time into what's the action for? What is it really giving them? So key question is, what does it mean to you? What does it give you? What's it for? So the main question here is, what does it reinforce in you? And then when you accomplish that, what becomes possible? You're looking at what is reaffirmed and what becomes possible. Otherwise, they're just doing something to prove something to themselves or please you or please the inner critic that's saying, you're just a lazy sack of shit. Right?
But how is this a bad thing?
What?
To go round and round for the client. Maybe if I mirror it and he accepts it.
There's another way. Accept it. Aggravate it. This is another thing we do in EED. Is if you've got a game, aggravate the game to see where it really wants to go. It could even be where, okay, so client, what are you going to do? Yeah, okay, great. I know you're not going to do it, but that's okay. That's okay. I know you're not going to do it. Just come back and we'll talk about this again and again. And see what the reaction is. Oh, you're making fun of me. Actually, no, I'm not, because the last 6 sessions we've had this very same topic, you come to the very same conclusion, and then you still have a problem. So here's the question you can ask. When they come with the same topic again, what is going to make this the very last conversation? What will be different that makes this the last time you ever need to talk about this? That, again, makes them more intentional.
Yeah.
Do you guys get that?
Mm-hmm.
That helps break the cycle as well.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to build investment in themselves.
So basically mirroring and making intentional for the client.
Yes. Yeah. Another option, and I actually did that with this other client today, because I said, well, yes, we can do it. Yes, we can work on it. Yes, we've worked on it 16,000 times already. Yes, we can do it again. Why are you paying me 250 euros an hour to do this again? Should I be charging you more? No, really. Oh, 250. Yeah, I can afford that. Well, what price does it need to be so that you don't bring this again? Do you want to keep bringing it again? Yes, I do. Fine. Then that's our agreement. I can work with that. Get it? I don't have to push them, because otherwise I'm pushing an agenda on them.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's what you want, then let's be very, very clear, congruent, and aligned on that. Do you guys understand? You're holding them accountable to themselves. Well, I wish I didn't have to bring it back. Well, then don't. That's simple. But I want it to be more complicated. What's it like when it is just that simple? It's very uncomfortable. The ego talking, where it's got to be busy. Now, this is where resilience comes in. When let it be just that simple. Wait, 1 second of calm. What's that like? It's weird. Weird means it's not normal. Absolutely, it's new. Come back to it. So, if your client, here's in general what I want to leave you guys with as well, is if your client is behaving badly, let them. Let them refocus them. Bring them back to the resilience. Bring them back to the brilliant moments. Let them behave badly, then bring them back. And at some point, you can start making the executive decision to say, you've been there 10 times, come back here, and we're staying here, a few minutes longer. No, you're not. Come back. You're not leaving. You got to get more and more tenacious. Usually find, like for the first half of the session, you just let them run. You let them toggle here, there. They can behave good. They can behave bad. And then there comes a point where they've got to make choices. They make it, you want it or not. Now you can't say, I don't know, because you've said that 16 times. Now, do you want it or not? No judgment either way, but make the choice. They're afraid of consequence. They're afraid of commitment. They're afraid, what if it's the wrong decision? And those are the millions of reasons why they won't make the choice. Appeal to their resilience, have them make the choice, have them feel how okay they feel. If they're not okay, change the choice. Now, how are they? Right, there's going to be flashes of resilience. Then you get more rigorous with them, where you have them now be congruent with what they're choosing. Yes, they're going to fall off the way. Yes, they're going to collapse. Rebuild, refocus, rebuild, refocus. That then is more your second half of the session. The first half is explore, see where they go. Then they must make some choices, and then they reconstruct this. How's that sounding for you guys?
Yeah.
Good.
What are you left with? I don't know how successful I was at discussing all of these. It's impossible to address all of them. I mean, these things do get addressed in our modules and practical, but in 90 minutes, it's a lot. So it's a lot of stuff to cover. But what I want to know is, what are each of you walking away with that feels clearer, like more clear, or feels inspiring?
For me, are both more clear and inspiring.
What specifically, or what stands out? One or two things.
Well, the dynamics of the relationship. Not that I was not aware about the issue or the topic, but now it gives me something to work with, and some fundamentals, let's say.
Okay.
That's very important.
Very important. By the way, I will say many coaches are not aware of these dynamics. It's not trained. They're not taught. Some may naturally, intuit it or even figure it out, but many are not. And what usually happens is they either blame themselves for not succeeding or they blame the client. They don't realize it's actually a game that can be used to reveal deeper issues. That's all I wanted to say on that. And that is trainable. We train that, by the way, very extensively. Who was speaking next?
Yeah, and something like, if you see it from a system perspective, that is nothing by chance,
Right.
The problems of the client are not, what I take with me is this strategy of constant recycling. You don't throw anything away from the client, so you're recycling basically everything, and you're returning into the dynamics. It's nothing like something is wasted, and you use practically everything, and you are being resilient, and you are being aware of the roles and of the games people play, and the postures of the ego, but don't theoretizing too much, and don't let yourself going into the mind trap.
Yes.
It's a matter of practice and masterful guidance from my end. It's not something like theory. You have to be there with the master coach to guide you through this.
Everything, this is very great. I want to underline it. Everything that happens is information. Don't take it personally. Now, here's my disclaimer on that. If they call you incompetent, or if you feel incompetent, look at two things. One, that can be part of the game. It can be an attack defense. But also look at, all right, where may I be still incompetent, and then address that. Still don't take it personally, but just say, all right, fine. Because usually it could be both, right? Where, I'm hitting a limit. I don't take it personally that I'm incompetent, because that may be when it's becoming contemptuous, or, it could be used as an attack or defense. But just take a step back from that, say, okay, that's the game part. And then later, after the session, say, all right, where could I have more awareness? Where might I need to train myself more? Okay? But everything is information, both for them and for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mastery is a lifelong process. So you can have enough resilience to actually embrace those moments, okay? Even if they don't feel comfortable. Say, another opportunity for another level, right? Mm-hmm. Who else?
I've got a whole bunch of tools, and actually less fear of this dreadful thought, is it me? Is it me? When the session is derailed somehow, this question, is it me? Did I do something wrong? It's much clearer now and much more inspiring.
Great. And by the way, when you're working with EED works in cycles, repeating cycles, everything is based on the natural creative process, the natural creative cycle. When you learn that really well, it's as if you cannot go wrong. I'm not saying that you're perfect. What I'm saying is you can never get lost. So you can't feel like even if you've lost your footing, you can then say, I know how to get back on the ride, because it goes in circles. So I can jump on the ride at any point. You guys understand? EED is based on repeating cycles and loops. So it doesn't function like recipes. If you skip a step in the recipe, the whole thing fails. It doesn't work like that. Life doesn't work like that. So when you've got that behind you too, then you can really rest easy and say, everything is information. It is not me. I'm sure I'm contributing, but it's not only me, right? And I can still improve. It still brings in a level of humility. And It can always be better. You can always get better, but there's no reason for you to take things personally and start, feeling ashamed. We do that. Yeah, go ahead, Irene.
Well, again, much more clarity. When you talk about the dynamics, I was really aware that I understood that in my clients, because her purpose is to be with me as much as she can, because she felt that she's not able to do that work, and I use a tool to break a little bit things, and your talk encouraged me to go ahead in using this dynamic, and I am very grateful for this session.
Great.
And I am very inspired also with your commitment building, and because I will use the trick to, I must charge you a little bit more if you want to stay in this circle. This is, I found really fantastic.
Well, as long as you keep inviting their response, it's okay to provoke. You've got to provoke it. So many coaches are very afraid to do it because they think they're bullying or interfering. It becomes bullying and interfering when you don't catch the response or you don't ask for it, right? Everything you do, invite the response. That is our primary loop in EED. Action, response, action, response, action, response. That's what keeps momentum going. And then it keeps you safe and them safe as well. So great. I'm glad. We were inspired. Lulia or Sonia, just wanted to hear what you're walking away with. What's feeling clear or inspiring?
Everything is, I totally agree, and it was a lot of useful experiences. But despite all this, I'm sure that at the end, there really are some uncoachable or it really remains, and we have to accept that it's natural and normal. Yes. Speaking about self-esteem or the question before, is it me, or it could be, but it's natural to be incompatible clients.
Incompatible, yes.
Or uncoachable. Speaking about internal corporate clients, for sure, which were sent it by the manager to you, for sure you have to define this is uncoachable because of a work reason or something else. He's resistant to the job and to the company. And
then
natural. This is natural.
I want to make 2 comments on that because it's very good you're bringing this, and it's excellent that you bring it in at the end. Yes, for every coach, there is an uncoachable client. Okay, because the client is showing you your limit, and when you can accept the limit, then you can also accept, no, I cannot work with that person at this time. But what I want to be very clear is, don't think that that's forever. Please learn from the limit that was presented. Be willing to cross the line with yourself, to take yourself beyond your limit within reason. And at the same time, know when to cut your losses, meaning, no, like I can't insist on keeping on working with this client. It's just not working. Here's how you can gauge it. Can you 100% champion this client? And can you remain 100% objective? If you cannot, for whatever reasons, it's going to affect your chemistry. And you'll start putting out unconscious games with them. You may start undermining them or not having full faith in them. You might introduce resistance because you can't champion them. So you've got to be very clear with yourself. It's okay to say, no, we will not work with this client For now, they test my limit and I don't want to go there. But then immediately go say, how can I grow that limit? But not with them. Do you understand? Go seek the training or the mentoring or whatever you need to expand that limit once it's been identified. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. I'm not here to say everybody is coachable, but I'm saying through those people, you'll learn your limits, but please don't write them off as saying they're impossible. They're not a match for your limits. Does that make sense? And then the next year, that client might be an easy client for you because you've expanded yourself. Okay? Regarding clients that are forced in corporate, just very shortly, I will say, okay, client, so how do you feel about being here? Well, I'm forced to be here. I don't want to be here. Great. Yet the time is paid for. What happens if you don't come? I'll be penalized. Great. We're stuck here for an hour every week. What do you want to do with your time? I have to be really flexible, and that might mean they're going to tell me stories for an hour, and I might not actually really coach them. Let them, I got to play their game. Let them use the time, they will define it, and then I gradually sneak in more and more awareness, and after about a few sessions, they become more and more willing. As soon as they start accepting themselves, accepting the situation, they will start to accept you. It takes you accepting them in their situation first in order for them to start calming down. Does that help you guys?
Mm-hmm.
I remember an example on which being a corporate coach, and one of the clients told from the beginning that I don't give a shit on coaching, I'm not interested. And applying the conversation we have, I have to do my job because I'm paid for that. Yeah. Finally, after a few sessions, we realized, and the person realized that the job is, the person is not fit for the job. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I totally agree that it's very useful to keep communicating. Yeah. But the result of that coaching could be something more. Speaking about the sponsor.
As soon as you can let go of what the coaching is supposed to look like, you're going to get a stronger coaching happening.
Right.
So, because some coaches get very attached. Well, you don't want to be coached, but I'm supposed to work on your values and this and that. And if you don't want to do that, what am I supposed to do? Well, how about we just sit and hang out? You know, that can be a coaching in itself, right?
Right.
Let go of what it's supposed to look like, and gradually the coaching will emerge. You know, but that takes flexibility and resilience from the coach's part to allow that to happen. And I've had very good results doing that.
And acceptance.
Yes.
Because yes, acceptance from the coach part.
That's the number one way to neutralize resistance. Alexander, you have to go. I know most of you.
No, Caesar is going, and I'm just waiting to him.
We enjoyed having you, Caesar. The number one way to neutralize resistance is to accept it first. That's very clear.
Yes, right. Right.
Accept
and don't take it personally or as a failure. For when you identify resistance, this is not failure. This is normal.
It's actually resilient energy behind it. It takes strength and resilience to be able to resist. That's the way you can look at it.
And there is a reason of resistance. And this is interesting. Which is the reason?
Even for a client to totally emotionally shut down, that takes energy.
Right.
Have them pay attention to the energy they're using to not feel. It actually gets them moving and feeling stuff again. Sonia, I wanted to hear from you quickly, and then I'm closing, and we'll be done in 2 minutes. Yeah, just what's clear for you? What's inspiring? What are you left with? Yeah.
It was really interesting to hear you pinning down the client, the abusive client in the circular session. I found that really quite strong and very useful, like not letting the client off the hook.
Yes.
Just keeping them coming back to where they were. So that was really interesting. Thank you.
A little disclaimer on that, Sonia. Some of my examples, I take them to more of an extreme, like it's a very, very hot chili pepper, but you can do it, you can tone it down to something more mild as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's when I'm getting extreme resistance, I have to go more on the extreme end to match what they're doing. That's it, right? If you're capable of going there, that's why range is so important.
Yeah.
But for many of these things, I don't use them that often. It's quite rare. They're hot chili peppers. And sorry, I interrupted. And you had something else?
That's okay. No, I was just going to say I had to turn off I thought I'd turned off the video because I was having to move around. Had I left it on or had I turned it off?
I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, nobody noticed me. That's great. Okay, so I've got a visitor about to arrive, so I've just had to sort of move around and listen while I was on the video. So,
I saw you cooking something.
did you? Thank you very much. You saw me eating too.
I don't know how to put it on again. Mine.
At the bottom of the screen on the left, there's a stop or start video. It's beside the little mute thing.
Okay.
The bar appears. Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Now, here's what I want to say in closing is if this piqued your interest, if you want to learn more specific training, because I'm giving you some examples, you can try these things, but there's more involved, and it takes practice and ability to be able to really masterfully handle these kinds of resistance and, coachability. Come back for a webinar next month, okay, where there'll be a different theme. If you're very interested to learn about the EED processes, which help along your regular tools and coaching, because it has a lot to do with these dynamics, we've got courses running in Munich and Paris and Toronto. They're in Spanish in Barcelona. So what I'm going to send you is a thank you email. It's going to have a link where you can look at the course dates, all of that. Plus, I'm offering you guys as a thank you for attending the webinar. You get an extra discount on the courses. It's going to be for a limited time where you could get a 15% off the module 1, or you can get like about an equivalent 10% off the series. It makes it better than the early bird. It's for a short time, meaning you got to decide quick if you want it or not. We've got courses starting in mid-March and in April in Toronto. So take a look at that, see what you like. No obligation, but do please like EED on Facebook and Twitter. It's EE Dynamics, Please also post, share your thoughts about this webinar. It would be great if you post some comments or share with your friends or encourage them to come to the next one. We really like it when we get more people, when it's a dynamic discussion. I want more and more people to learn about EED because it's very, very, very effective. And it focuses on resilience, dealing with resistance, and in the end, creating a reconciliation, which brings people into more well-being, peace, and calm. It restores their well-being and creativity. So, thank you very, very, very much. You'll get that email with the recording in about an hour or so. And I wish you all the best. And if you have further questions, please feel free to email me.
Thank you very much, Troy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Troy. You have an incredible energy.
Thank you.
That's true. Okay.
Great.
Bye.